Hello, 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 everybody. We are back today. Again, I'm wearing myself. This is the January edition. Every session we have, I'm going to be wearing the January edition because we are in the month of January. And in the month of February, I'm going to be wearing the February edition. These earrings, um, after we're done with this session, our January session, anybody in the audience who is going to summarize this January topic adequately, such that they impress the audience during the votes, they are going to win a pair of these earrings. Yes. So yes, and we're back today. We are using Eswatini Mobile as our service provider, network service provider. Okay. Today we are having a special guest. As usual, all my guests are special. We're having a special guest, Andile Tsabedze. She will take. I hope I'm audible. Oh my God, this thing of not having viewers. Am I audible? But then I hope I'm audible. We are having a guest, Andile Tsabedze. Oh, and by the way, this person who will win these set of earrings will also win a share of a certain mobile airtime and a certificate, obviously, certificate of participation from yours truly. So yes, today we're going to be joined by Andile Tsabedze. She will be addressing us on building resilience and positive habits. Right? Boo, 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 boo.
Okay, perfect. Our audience can see us. We can see you both amazing. They can see us, my love. I'm so sad that I can't see your beautiful face, but then who cares, right? So, hi, babe. Imagine I'm smiling at myself. This is so sad. But then, I trust you're good. I trust you're good. Yes, today we are joined by our prestigious, amazing Andile Tsabedze to address us on building resilience and positive habits. This is my note then. So, yes, can you introduce yourself? Tell us why you're here. Tell us why you think you deserve to be addressing us on this topic. Go ahead. Stage is
Thank
yours.
you very much for the invite to your beautiful, lovely page. I believe that you're doing something amazing for the whole of society. Like you have mentioned, I think some people know me, but some don't, and that's okay. I am Andile. Tsabedze is my surname. I am a mental health nurse by profession. I just have a very serious and burning passion for mental health issues, as well as prevention, more specifically, because it is my wish that people may not be diagnosed with mental illness, but let's rather work on the prevention end of things. So I do a lot of advocacy, a lot of awareness for mental health issues. Like you have mentioned, that today we'll be talking about how we can build resilience, or how we can stay on the positive side of things from our day-to-day life. So yeah, I currently work with a couple of NPOs to drive such mental health initiatives. And just make sure that people are emotionally and psychologically healthy in nowadays and life. Yeah. So that's just a brief introduction of myself.
Love it. So, Andile, yes, please just take us through the whole thingy. I'll be here as quiet as a church mouse. Just cook us. Cook us, right now. Cook us right here. We are
All
yours.
right. Um, so when we speak about emotional resilience, well, for a lot of people, maybe some people do have an idea. When you talk about what are emotions, what is resilience, okay? So just maybe a simple way to define what emotions are. Emotions are basically your feelings. They have to do with whatever way you feel, either at a specific point in time, or rather over a longer period of time. So emotions can range from feeling sad, feeling happy. Emotions can range from being angry, being anxious, being apprehensive, and all of that. So the most important thing about emotions is that it is important for everyone everyone to know their emotion. That's the first thing that's important. You need to know how you're feeling at each point in time. And the second most important thing is to know how to appropriately understand and express your emotions at each point in time. So to say that emotions are capable of driving so many behaviors. It could be positive behaviors, it could be negative behaviors as well. So hence I said it's very important to know how to appropriately express your emotions, because you can have certain people that suddenly feel very angry, right? And then they want to throw glasses at everyone, for instance. They want to damage furniture, they want to damage property and all of that. And then you can have someone being so excited or being so happy to a point whereby they start engaging perhaps in behaviors that the whole of society would feel like, oh, okay, that's a little bit off or whatsoever. So it's just always that thin line between understanding how you feel and how it can definitely influence your behavior or your actions towards yourself and towards others. Okay, so now let's move into the broader picture of everything. I just wanted to unpack what emotions are, or just to give us a clip or an idea of what emotions could be. So when we speak about emotional resilience, a lot of people would think that when we say it's important for someone to be emotionally resilient, we basically mean that you are not supposed to react or respond to stress. You are supposed to be this solid hard rock, that is quite impossible. All right. So I usually say the human mind, should I say, or the human body, or rather the individual as a whole, we're all made in what should I say? You see, an elastic band, right? So that's how every emotional individual is made. You're supposed to be like this elastic that can sort of like stretch to accommodate, or rather to um um to to deal with stressors, in everyday life. But the way the human or the individual is made, you're supposed to be able to bounce back to your original or to your normal self, whenever that stress subsides, or rather whenever you're just able to adapt to whatever stress that you're going through. So that's basically what resilience is. We're basically saying you need to have the ability to adapt to life situations, especially situations that you cannot change, right? So it still is possible to apply adaptability to certain things that you cannot change, hurtful things or past traumas that you feel like you can never take them away. Of course, you can still be resilient towards those. As we go through the entire talk, we'll get to probably unpack some of the very different situations or circumstances that could potentially cause people or cause someone to struggle with their emotional resilience. So here are some few misconceptions that people might have about resilience. So someone might argue that I think I can never be able to develop my own resilience. I just think it's a childhood thing that's in there. I can never be able to grow it. Okay, so I'm here to tell you today one amazing thing about mental health techniques, or rather one amazing thing about establishing your mental health is that you can definitely grow your mental health. You can be intentional about being resilient, so you can build it through many ways. So of course, what is important is to start by knowing yourself. I know this is one phrase that when you bring to the table, people always feel like, oh, you mental health gang, you are mental health nurses and psychologists always tell me I need to know myself, I need to forgive myself and all of that. But unfortunately, I'm here to, make it a bit boring once more. That's where everything starts. Before you want to figure out how you can be resilient against the situations in life. You could be going through difficulties at work, difficulties forming relationships. You could be having financial, economic issues. You could be having a squabble with your neighbor, or any other form of difficulty that you feel like you need to be resilient against. You cannot be able to deal with something external without dealing with your internal self. Okay, so you can never try to understand an external situation if you do not understand what is going in within you. So that is the reason why I'm saying I'm going to make it a bit boring, because yes, once again, I'm going to come back and say you need to know yourself. Okay, so somebody may say it's such a huge concept. Where do I start? How do I even begin knowing myself? Well, I do understand that the topic of probably self-identification, self-esteem, self-actualization could just be a topic on own on another specific day. But here are the highlights. Right. As an individual, it is very important to know who you are. So when I say who are you, I am definitely not talking about your name and surname. But where you could start is that what do you like and what don't you like, right? So that's usually the basic point, right? What makes me happy and what really makes me happy. Okay, so where you start as an individual, when you understand the things you like, you can be able to use them to build or to establish or to power up your resilience. However, when you're at a point whereby you're not even sure what you like, you're not even sure what you don't like, then it's going to be very hard for you to adapt or to face certain adversities or stressors or challenges in life, because honestly, you're not even sure what you like or what you're into or what your interests are. So it is very, very important that you know yourself. So beyond knowing what you like, you need to understand your emotions from time and again. You need to understand when you see something happening, when you see someone not meeting your expectations, for example, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel any way less? Do you feel like your self-esteem goes down in that way? Do you feel unappreciated? Do you feel angry towards that person? Do you feel perhaps that you are unappreciated, or do you actually feel like, oh no, I'm just gonna keep myself out of the situation so that I feel better, like to emotionally zone out of a situation? So those are very important things when you talk about the concept of resilience, because you need to get to a point whereby you say, given a situation or a negative life event, you need to determine the situations where you need to stay and fight. You need to determine the situations where you need to actually remove or extract yourself from situations or circumstances that could be extra harmful towards yourself as an individual. So I've covered two important aspects: the idea of knowing your likes and your dislikes in the whole puzzle of resilience, and the importance of knowing how to regulate your emotions. All right. So in establishing resilience as well, it is very important to be at par or aware of your thoughts. Right. So those are the things that happen to you psychologically. Mainly, that is how you think, your thought patterns. Are you someone who thinks positively about a situation, or are you thinking negatively about a situation? Because all of that can actually contribute to how you behave or how you act in a situation. So if you find yourself in a certain negative situation, let's say you have a very terrible, let's say, fight or an argument or a disagreement, like let's say with a friend, okay? And let's say, for example, this negative disagreement, should I say, it's happening from time and again. Let's say now it's been a couple of months, but you just always having arguments with this friend. And when you have this argument, you have this strong feeling that he or she never listens to you, but she wants you to listen to her, right? So you can find that such a situation could be emotionally draining to an individual. So it's very important to have time where you sit down with yourself just to try and understand what are your thoughts about the situation. Okay, so someone could think, okay, I think my friend is just naturally what should I say, naturally strong, or a confident and assertive human being, right? She is bold and ambitious in that type of way that she really struggles to listen to another person. Somebody else could be thinking that, I really think this friendship is not working for me, because I'd like to be in an interaction whereby I'm also listened to. Okay, you could also be thinking that, I really, she's just too overpowering for me. Okay, so those are the type of, or the examples of thoughts that different people could be having about a negative situation happening around them. So how you think about the situation definitely would influence how you eventually behave. towards the situation. So it could be that it makes your resilience much better, or in terrible situations, it could actually harm your resilience. Okay, so now let's try to unpack some of the ways in which you can establish good relations besides just knowing who you are as an individual. Okay, so like I highlighted before, with most of this mental health techniques, or these ways of keeping mentally healthy, you unfortunately you need to put in the work. I always make this joke about mental health versus physical health. Okay, so when you have a tummy bug or a headache, usually we're just going to give you maybe a tablet, right? Panadol, paracetamol, right? So when we give you that, the understanding is that within 30 minutes to an hour at most, the headache is going to be gone, or it's going to subside, right? But with mental health, unfortunately, there's no immediate pill. Well, we do have certain drugs or tablets in mental health, right? Let me get that straight. But for most of the tips that you need to use from day to day life in terms of your mental health, you need to put in an effort and be intentional about it. So how can you build your resilience? Okay, so number one, to build your resilience, you need to make sure that you sleep well. Okay, it's a funny one, but I just want to try to move us from the most basic things, because sometimes when you bring a concept like resilience to the table, it always feels like it's something so huge. It's something that we cannot do. It's something that we're not sure how we're supposed to maneuver around. But I'm here to tell you that it starts from the most basic things. Okay, so science and research time and again has told us that you need to be sleeping for at least 8 hours a day. Okay, I will be honest with you, I am also pretty much guilty. I don't do that too well, but of course I do try from time and again, because the understanding is that when you sleep better, it actually makes you, or it gives the brain, enough time to like sort of settle and to be calm from all the things that could be so stimulating throughout the day. So we all know the moment you just wake up, there's chances of meeting stressors or experiencing certain stressful events, right? You could be getting out of bed, and the first thing that happens in your first 5 minutes when you're awake, you trip and fall. I mean, like I just started the day, all right? So the understanding is that imagine how many things or negative things that could trigger negative emotions happen in a day, right? So you wake up, let's say you trip and fall, that's fine. You try to have a cup of coffee and then it falls, right? You spill your coffee. Let's say you drive to work and someone is a terrible driver on the road. You get to work and then you have this huge timeline that you need to meet. There's this deadline and that other deadline. You get back home, you find that maybe you're out of power. Like, I mean, one day could be so much. So the understanding is that if you sleep well, you allow the brain and your body enough time to actually just calm down away from everything that might be overstimulating, so that you can be able to deal better with things, right? Nutrition is your number two towards building your resilience. So it's very important to make sure that you eat well. I know we've heard from time and again, you are what you eat, you are what you eat, right? I know it feels so good having a packet of chips and crisps from time and again, having a sweet snack, which is fine. I, for one, believe in a balance. Okay, so it's very important that you still have your healthy meals, your home cooked meals. And from time and again, it's okay to give yourself that KFC as a treat. Okay, so those are very important things. Physical activity number three. It's January and everyone feels like, no, we need to hit the gym. We need to have a bit of physical activity, right? So you need to understand that such things have the ability or the potential of improving your mood, right, in one way or the other. So physical activity and the type of foods that you eat, they definitely have an influence in how your happy hormones or your sad hormones flow in your body. So if you've had a situation that triggered something or a negative emotion or a negative thought in you, chances are when you exercise, that emotion is going to be resolved at that point in time, one. Or two, during that point in time whereby you're engaging in physical activity, the brain or the mind itself is sort of like distracted in a much more positive way instead of focusing on whatever could be negatively emotionally triggering. Okay, so let's move on to other techniques that might seem a little bit tense in terms of trying to build your resilience or your adaptation against stressors in life. Okay, so we speak about certain concepts such as mindfulness. All right, it's a concept that from time and again you will definitely encounter, maybe in a book. If you read a lot of self-help books, you may find that from time and again they're going to touch on, oh, mindfulness this, mindfulness that. It sounds so big, but to just simply break it down, mindfulness is just a state of trying your best to live in the moment. All right, I could be here on your screen right now. I am actually living in the moment, right? At this point in time, um, I could be having no food in my fridge, for example, right? I could be having a balance of 5 emalangeni in my bank account, but at this very moment, I'm just living in this moment whereby I'm like, you know what, we're here. Let's talk about emotional resilience. Let's see how we can discuss this and how we can assist each other. So that's basically mindfulness. It's a state whereby you just try to train yourself or gradually position yourself to say, I'm going to live in each moment. So an example could be, you could be going through so much, but let's say a friend comes over to visit you. You just shift your emotions and your minds towards the fact that my friend is here and she's here to visit me. So we are going to chat the day away. If we're going to be having food, we're going to eat that food. If we're going to be taking a walk, I'm just going to focus on us taking that walk, watching beautiful nature. If we're going to a movie zone, I'm just going to focus on what the movie has to offer, right? So it really gives the brain some time off all the stresses and all the problems that you might be facing at each point in time. I must agree, it's a very difficult thing to do. Hence, I said you need to be intentional about it. It's very difficult because oftentimes when we go through life, we think a problem actually covers the whole of our life. You'd be shocked to know that your life, imagine a white piece of paper. Okay, so when you have that white piece of paper, any problem or any negative circumstance or encounter that you're going through is more like just one single dot on that piece of paper, right? So, but because of the heaviness of the different problems and the struggles and the difficulties of different problems that we go through, we start to then think the entire piece of paper is black. Yet the entire piece of paper is actually white. It's just that single dot that is just so heavy that makes it like your entire life is engulfed by this problem. So of course, techniques like mindfulness could be really helpful towards you as you deal with your problems. Stay in the moment. All right. Another second important one, journaling. Right. So I've heard a lot of people say, us mental health people always like, oh, you need to talk about your emotions. You need to express your emotions. And I know you guys are tired of hearing this from us, but unfortunately, I, for one, I'm still going to continue saying those things because in as much as these techniques are sometimes difficult to use, they may seem draining because everyone just wants the Panado. Just give me the Panado and take the pain away. But with mental health, you need to put in the work to feel better. So journaling, I usually advise a lot of people to journal, especially people that feel like, I do not like talking about my feelings. People always ask me questions like, if I talk about it, is it gonna feel better, right? So sometimes you need to shift your mentality about what should be the outcome of talking about your emotions as you work towards gaining control of your emotions and your emotional resilience. So when you speak to someone about your problems, you are not seeking all the perfect solutions at that point in time, right? You are just placing yourself at a position whereby you say, at least if person B knows what I'm going through, I get to share that mental and emotional burden related to the problem. Okay, so if you viewed it in that type of way, to say, if I talk about my feelings, if I talk about whatever I'm going through, I'm not talking about it so that the person can have all the solutions. Because this mentality, it always then makes it very difficult for some people to listen to other people. People will tell me that I always struggle when someone says they want to talk to me about something, because I feel like they expect me to have the solutions and all the answers. All right. And I always tell them that no, that is actually not necessarily your responsibility, but yours is to be the perfect ear at that point in time, to just listen. So if you talk about something, try to change your mentality this time around to say, I'm talking about this because I want to offload my heart. I want to offload my mind about this. I want to share the emotional burden of this thing with somebody else. So when you're journaling, you're basically doing the exact same thing, but on paper. Okay. So I've heard people say, I do not like writing. I do not like carrying a pen or whatsoever. Guys, journaling could be just writing literally 2 sentences on a piece of paper on a day. So for most people, they feel like, I need to fill up the entire page or the entire 3 pages of my journal if I'm journaling. That's not right. Actually, that would be too overwhelming for somebody who's already going through things emotionally. Okay. But look at it this way. If you told yourself that I'm going to start journaling and the only things I'm going to do, I'm just going to write one thought I've had today, and I'm going to write one associated emotion I felt today. Okay. I'll make it 3. Write about what happened, what you thought, and what emotion. Okay. For example, let's go back to that example about waking up and then you trip and fall the moment you get out of bed. So you wake up, you trip and fall, right? The moment you get out of bed. Now write your thoughts. At the end of the day, what did you think about that situation, right? Somebody might think, let's say somebody who thinks negatively, they might think, it's just going to be a terrible day already. Okay. But somebody else might say, I think I just was not careful with my steps. That is why I fell. All right. Somebody might just think like that. And then what are your emotions related to that? A person might feel like, I was really sad. I like that was a trip and I fell and it hurts, and that's fine. Okay. So that is a simple example of how journaling works. What happened, how you felt, and what were your thoughts about your situation. So such things build your emotional regulations because it assists you, it gives you a clearer picture of the things, several things that you go through, and how you think about them and how you feel about those different things. So when you're at par with such emotions that may seem minimal and basic, like tripping and falling, it means that when bigger and more demanding or emotionally heavy things happen, you can be able to apply the similar concepts as you go. Okay. So moving right along, another important way of building emotional resilience, the importance of social relations, right? Or should I say the importance of building very good friendships and relationships can never be overemphasized. Okay. So I've heard a lot of people make statements like, I think I'm good on my own. I don't need friends. I'm okay. Like I'll just be on my own, right? Um, Believe me when I say no man is an island. The way we are built up as human beings, I know that not everyone is spiritual, but allow me to say this, in terms of religion, if God believed that you're supposed to be alone, he could have just probably created you as the only individual on this planet Earth and just left you there. If he knew that you'd be good and you'd survive and cope. There's a reason why we are born into families, and there's a reason why the families are the initial social unit whereby we're supposed to build strong and positive relationships within, because having those positive relations, that good relation with your mom or your dad or your siblings, or it could be even your friends, because other people would really argue that I do not have good relations with my family. I would say that could be a topic for another day, but you do have the ability or the capability to actually establish your own good friendship. Okay, so when I say make friends and make good, strong relations, I don't mean that you need to have 10 or 15 of them. Okay, not everyone is like me. I have a couple of friends. Not everyone is like me, but just that one or two people that you feel like you can be able to feel safe with, not just physically safe, but most importantly, emotionally safe. So that should be someone who listens to you. That should be someone who understands your emotions. That is someone who doesn't dismiss how you feel at that point in time. It would be very, very difficult for you to establish emotional resilience if at each point in time when you share with your friend that I really do not like the fact that an example could be, I don't like the fact that you show up at my house maybe unannounced. So let's say if your friend dismisses that and actually negatively responds towards that and says, oh, you're just being dramatic and all of that, that situation could make it very difficult for you to establish your emotional resilience. But if you have a friend that's going to say, oh, I'm really sorry, I didn't notice or I didn't realize that I was actually crossing a certain boundary, but I'm willing for us to work on that, that could actually influence your emotional resilience journey so positively. Okay. Another thing that is very important that we need to note when we journey through establishing emotional resilience is the fact that being emotionally resilient is not something that may exist every day. You know, it's some form of fluid like state. You may feel emotionally resilient on another day, and on another day you may feel like you're at your lowest. Just know that that is simply normal, right? That is way an individual is built. You know, you're always having a good balance of sweetness and saltiness. You're always having a good balance of something bitter and something that is spicy or something that is salty. So you just need to understand that there are so many factors that could influence such dynamics. Hence, what you see or how you feel at each point in time may differ from time and again. So yeah, when we think about such things, or when we practice emotional resilience and positive habits, because yes, that's what the topic says, these are the key things that you need to think about. Your sleep is important, your nutrition is important, you need to make sure that you have some form of physical activity, try journaling, try mindfulness, of course, and then you of course try to establish this good and those positive social relations with other people. Okay, so other things that can potentially help you, I always said the internet, right, or the digital age is just getting better and better by the day. Things that you could not access on the internet maybe some 50 years ago, you can get them, right? So right now we've got a lot of self-help type of books, self-help type of apps. You could literally be on your phone but reading how to feel better about your emotions. I used to have an app, but I think it was phased out. It was called something robot. It had like a form of an AI robot type of tool. I could talk to it. It was like a chat. I could log in and say, okay, such and such and such happened today, and it would actually ask me, so how do you feel about it? Then I would type back, and then it would actually like interpret my emotions in that type of way. So those are some of the things, because other people worry I can't talk to other people. Let me let you know, nowadays the digital age and the internet literally has almost everything, but you need to make sure that you do not replace the internet with actual human interactions, because that would not work well for you too. You still have a responsibility to establish good and positive relations with other people, but make sure that you're using the internet as your best source as well. Another very good source is TikTok. Sometimes use TikTok as a search engine, guys. Use TikTok as a search engine. If you want to go and search what is emotional resilience on Google, just go to TikTok. Why? sometimes TikTok is going to have a simpler way of just explaining what emotional resilience is, something that you can interact or relate to more, as opposed to just reading a bunch or paragraph boring information on Google on the other hand. So yeah, one last thing, it's important to try your best to be consistent as you build your resilience. I'm still not at my level best. I try. On other days I get it right, but on other days I'm just a mess. And you need to understand that it's a journey. You know, even the people with similar professionals are actually working on their own emotional journeys, because honestly, some emotions in their nature are very difficult to understand. They are very difficult to also express, or sometimes it can take you a month or two to actually figure out how you feel about something. So that simply means you don't have to be hard on yourself. Something could be happening to you, but you can't pinpoint how exactly you feel about it. And that's perfectly normal and that's perfectly fine. So you need to be patient with yourself, seek help where you can, be realistic with yourself as well. So yeah, I hope we're able to grasp some of the key things that can probably assist us in terms of emotional resilience. Such topics could actually further be broken down, you know, into 1,000 of series, but I think we just tried to unpack what is most basic or what is key for an introductory level. So I hope that everyone can have an emotionally resilient 2025, where we're going to work towards building positive emotions. Thank you.
Wow, 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 wow. Love it. Love it from start to finish. Amazing. Oh my God. Any questions, guys? I was just trying to keep up. Every time I was trying to write a question, you'd answer it immediately. So I'm like, this girl she's just a mental health professional by calling. So yeah, I don't know. I truly don't have any questions. I mean, you just cooked me through and through. I am very much on medium, right? I am very much well cooked. I don't know. Anybody with questions? Anybody who has a question? Question for our Andile? Anyone? Anyone really? Okay, I think everybody's satisfied. Everybody's satisfied. Andile, my. Thank you for literally sacrificing and donating your resources to us, your time, your money, your everything, just to be here to give us your information and share with us your intellect. We truly appreciate you. Thank you. Biggie huggy, biggie huggy. Thank you, my love.
Thank you very much. Have a great
Yes. Bye. Good
bye.
night. Good night, everyone. And again, by the way, this episode, just like all the other episode, was sponsored by Eswatini Mobile. Again, anybody who's going to summarize this whole January topic, which is emotional health, hashtag New Year, New Mind, will earn themselves or win themselves a pair of our January earrings and a share of Eswatini Mobile. From us to you, good night and thank you. Thank you, Andile. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.